Hey, welcome to Rob, Ryan, Red, the Wrexham podcast. You know by now, brought to us in association with Red 10 People Development. And we've got another bumper show for you this week. My name's Rich Fay, joined by Mr. Nathan Salt. And in the words of Salt and Pepper, let's talk about sixth, Nath. Let's talk about sixth, Parky. Let's talk about beating Pompey. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things like losing Ben Sheaf. Let's talk about sixth. Still with us? Good stuff. On with the show.
Rob, Ryan, Red.
Well, Nath, what a week. Wrexham, sixth in the Championship in the fifth round of the FA Cup. The women have won the Adran Trophy. Under 18s got to the fifth round of the FA Youth Cup as well. I mean, what a time to be a Wrexham fan.
Yeah, amazing. And, sometimes it's really pretty. Sometimes it's pretty gritty. The penalty shootout for the women, real sort of resilience, determination to get over the line against a Cardiff side that have had their number for the last couple of years. So to do that was incredibly important and a great achievement for everyone involved. They're really, really chuffed for Jenny and all the players. The youngsters, they lost, but to only lose 1-0 to the team that won this competition, the best in class, and the guy who scored, I think, has scored in every single Premier League 2 games since August. I think that's right. So, that is the kind of standard you're coming up against. The boys did tremendously well. I'll get on to why I was a little bit frustrated that more weren't able to watch that game. And then the first team, it wasn't the prettiest game in the world. If Wrexham do manage to achieve the unthinkable, I don't think Portsmouth at home will sort of be the first game you remember. But it was a win, a crucial one, and Parky's celebration at the end, I think, showed you why that was probably a bigger win than the one against Ipswich.
And the chance from the tech end on Tuesday night, we're on our way. We're on our way to the Premier League. We're on our way. Maybe not getting too carried away right now in terms of that, but you've got to dream. You've got to enjoy these highs while we've got them. I've said can change very, very quickly. But if you look at the last 3 matches, to have taken 7 points from Bristol, Ipswich, and Portsmouth, that's an incredible haul. And we'll get onto it soon, but Wrexham, the informed team in the Championship right now, the team to beat for everyone else ahead of our trip to Charlton this weekend. We'll get onto the men's first team match then against Portsmouth, Nathan. A game of 2 halves. I know it's the old cliche. First half, I thought we looked really good. Started where we sort of finished off at the weekend. 2 really nice headed goals as well. We'll break those down individually. And then there was the concern in the second half. But if you're going to put in a worse performance in the second half against, fair play. Pompey played well. They did their bit. Their support was fantastic as well on Tuesday night. Gave as good as they took sort of with the sort of fan interactions as well. If you're going to play a bit poor in the second half, you still want to win the game. And, maybe that's the type of match that some of the other playoff contenders wouldn't hold out to actually win, Nath. So it does feel like Fortress Kairos is back.
Yeah, it's all about just kind of mental resilience and toughness at this stage of the season. Look at Ipswich, got turned over by Wrexham. A lot of fans very, very angry. They then go to Watford. We know Watford are a good side, and they win there. That's a big win for Ipswich. You see Hull, they've been in a rut of late. They go and beat a decent Derby side at home, to get themselves going again. Middlesbrough, that's twice in a week they've dropped points against Oxford and Leicester. 2 teams near the bottom that they would be expecting to get maximum from. They haven't. And now they're concerned, are they going to throw a top 2 away? And if they throw that away, they're going to lose in the playoffs. You'll see in Bristol City, they lost to Swansea, drew with us, go away and beat Blackburn. And that was a game of 2 halves by the look of that. They played really well in the first half, really struggled in the second, but ground out a win. So we're at that real key point now where you've just got to kind of keep stacking points, keep stacking wins. And if you notice, you win, you rush to the table, and you don't seem to have gained any advantage. It just seems to be like, oh, we're exactly where we were before the game kicked off. And I think everyone on Tuesday night, the teams that played will have gone, oh, what a great win. Oh, we don't seem to have built any advantage. So we're exactly where we were. We need to go and do it again next week and the week after and the week after. And any drop points now, I think, will be will be really critical. We're kind of at that point, towards the end of League One where you're almost looking at other results more than your own now. You're almost looking at like what Wycombe did in League One and what, did Millwall drop points? Did Bristol City drop points? Did Preston? See, Snoop Dogg's Swansea did us a big favour, 95th minute goal from Liam Cullen. Preston dropped 2 points, but it's just really, really that point of the season now where it's easy to enjoy in a way and then really hard to enjoy in another way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like sort of bad habit. I was trying to see who Notts County were playing last night, thinking, what's happening over there? But hey, they're long gone now. Don't worry about them. It's Nottingham Forest we play. Actually, it might be the league above them next season. Look at the table then before we get into that. Wrexham's still 6th. 4 points ahead of Southampton and Bristol City. Slight disadvantages. We're recording this Wednesday sort of afternoon, and Birmingham play Millwall tonight. So we could either then be, a bigger gap between us in 4th and 5th, or Birmingham could be right on our heels again. So,
Rich, give all 3 possibilities there. So if they draw, how many points are we behind Millwall if they get a point?
If Millwall draw, then they go up to 57. So we'll still be 3 points behind Ipswich, Hull and Millwall on 57. If Millwall win, they'll go up to 59. So it'll be Hull who drop down to 5th and we'll be 3 points behind them. If Birmingham win, we'll still be 2 points behind Millwall in 5th, but then Birmingham will be just 2 points behind us in 7th as well. So there's a lot of permutations there where either way, you're either going to have a tighter gap below you or a tighter gap above you. Kind of that's how the day will end. So yeah, just focus on ourselves, I suppose, is the moral of the story. But the Portsmouth win then, Nath. Interesting team selection. I thought Kiefer maybe just knackered from the weekend because he put in a real shift. Sam Smith came into the lineup. The midfield, I think what we expected, maybe didn't want to see necessarily. I kind of want to see Viner as a defensive midfielder myself, but we saw Dobson playing there alongside O'Brien. More on them kind of in the second half of the match. But attacking-wise, we looked really good in the first half. A really, really nice opening goal as well. Doyle's cross is exceptional from the left flank. And then Sam Smith's header doesn't have to have the power on it because of the cross. But the hang time was exceptional and the direction of the header just out of reach of the goalkeeper. Really nice goal. It was almost Kiefer Moore-esque.
Yeah, really, really good crossing. Like really, really good ball by Doyle. I thought Doyle played really well again on Tuesday night. Just looks incredibly accomplished. And Sam Smith, he can do it all. He's not Kiefer, but he can still head the football. He's not immune from headed goals. So yeah, again, he's notching ever closer to the double figures. We mentioned it a few weeks ago. Like how many of these players can get to double figures since then? You've had Rathbone score. You've had Broadhead. Did he scored again in that Ipswich game? I not so much on Sam Smith, but I did want to mention Nathan Broadhead, particularly in the first half. I thought he played really well. I thought he got stuck in defensively. And I remember when we signed Nathan Broadhead and we had Ross on, who covers Ipswich, and one of the critiques of Broadhead was that he doesn't want to do the defensive work. He doesn't want to take on too much defensive responsibility. So, can't consider him as a wing back and, try and free him up. And I think at the start of the season, there was some merit to that. Like he didn't really want to do too much tracking back. But particularly in that first half, I thought he did a lot of work in his own half. A lot of really nice close control. He got stuck in. He was almost Rathbone-esque in how he was kind of nipping at the heels of people, winning the ball back. And while there were times where he needed to give it a bit quicker to people, just kind of pop some passes off and not just keep it to himself, I was really impressed with his defensive effort. So just in case he kind of gets glossed over in this performance, I thought first half I made a mental note that, I really wanted to praise him because I thought he was really, really effective in that.
Like you said, Nath, Broadhead, one of the unsung heroes of the game. The players who stood out there, I mean, we talked about Sam Smith's header. I was also really impressed with Sam Smith, just the confidence he had. I think in the build-up to that second goal, it's him who does that sort of step over on the edge of the box, left-footed effort that forces the corner from which Max then scores. And again, Wrexham scoring from corners is something that I need to look into the stats of this because it doesn't feel like we always are deadly enough from set pieces, but we probably are right up there when you actually think about it and how many other teams in the division are getting. Really nice corner delivery from O'Brien, great header from Max, and at 2-0 up, kind of felt like the job was done a little bit just before half time, but this is a Wrexham team who tend to start slow in the second half, don't they? And that's only one of, from Tuesday night, it's mostly positive because we've won again. We're in a great position. We're doing what we have to do. But my only slight concerns that I want to get onto are we still start in second halves quite slow, and I worry about centre defensive mid.
I was going to say George Dobson took the corner and got the assist. So as good as
Did
Lewis
he?
O'Brien is, let's not do George Dobson, who got his new contract, and that's maybe one for later in the show why I'm not super convinced by that. But George Dobson did take the corner, so George Dobson assist, very good corner. It seems like they're sharing duties, him and O'Brien, on set pieces, and like I say, with Doyle, with Hyam, with others, we've got some big bodies, big threats, and that was a really good goal by Max. But first half, I think when it got to half time, I kind of felt like Portsmouth had played okay and we'd been clinical. I don't think we were our absolute best, but I felt like we were largely in control. Arthur didn't have too many sort of strenuous saves to make. And at 2-0, you're thinking, honestly, and slightly naively, at half time, I was telling some people around me that if we can get one more, I would then look to get Cadamartri and Keeler Dunn on because, they're really struggling for minutes right now. And I thought 3-0 up against Portsmouth, you would be thinking, well, now is the time to get them on, get Viner on, get them some minutes in front of the home crowd, be a great atmosphere up 3-0. And you have to say we barely came out in the second half and Portsmouth really raised the level. And I think that was as difficult a half of football we've had at the Kairos. I mean, maybe that one and maybe the Sheffield Wednesday half, the second half against Sheffield Wednesday, where that was a similar dominant first half, pretty poor, really bad second half. So there were definitely some parallels there, but I was definitely surprised by how much hard work we made of the second half.
Do you put that down to our own maybe shortfalls and shortcomings in that game, or do you put it down to Pompey coming out with a point to prove? Because, they have just gone and beaten Millwall as well. They're a better team than maybe the table suggests on recent form. Just felt like they really wanted it so much more. They seemed to get lots of space down the flanks. They were getting crosses into the box, earning so many corner kicks as well that we defended well. We got to give ourselves credit for that, but just felt like we were on the ropes. And, we conceded within a minute against Bristol City of the restart. We conceded very early against Ipswich after the restart. And then against Portsmouth, again, it just felt what was that sort of within 5 minutes of the restart, they'd scored. And for the first 15 minutes of that second half, we were penned back in so deep and just didn't seem to have an out ball either. Do you think that is maybe more credit to Pompey than to our own shortfalls? Because I kind of put it down to the factor that we don't have that natural wing back in Thomason defensively on the left. I know he's really good going forward, he can do lots, but he was getting doubled up with quite a lot of times on that flank. And then I guess the nature of not having Kiefer playing is that outball's a lot harder. Because when Kiefer came on, he was just telling our defence, slow it down. Don't look to break quickly. Just try and break up the transitions. Try and really grind this game to a halt, kill their momentum. And we kind of couldn't do that until Kiefer was on the pitch. So to me, it just felt like a combination of Pompey coming out of the blocks with a real point to prove, and maybe our personnel at that time didn't quite suit the job. Because I feel like if we had Kiefer and maybe Sheaf or Matty James on, we would have been able to take control in that second half and make it quite a routine 2-0 win, maybe even 3-0 win. And maybe this was just evidence that we're not going to be able to do that for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, obviously the goal comes down Cabore's side. It was another game where Cabore might come off thinking maybe could have done a bit more. And it was interesting speaking to different people before the game. Quite a few people were saying that they would rather have Longman starting right now. They feel like Longman is in better form than Issa Cabore, and they don't feel like he's been effective enough. And I thought Thomason. So quickly on Thomason, I think Thomason is got a home run case for Players Player of the Season. I think he'll almost certainly win that award because he gets so stuck in. He's playing in a position that's not his own. He's effective, particularly going forward. Maybe he's not as effective defensively, but we're asking him to do a lot in that position. And to your original point about was it more Portsmouth, was it less us? I think we looked quite tired. I think during that second half, we looked pretty leggy, like chasing the ball, chasing shadows. They were knocking it around in front of us. I thought people like Windass looked quite tired. And, you're asking players to put in a lot of heavy minutes at this stage of the season. You know, they gave a lot emotionally and physically in that Ipswich game. To then, you know, come in. We didn't make wholesale changes. The defence, I mean, they're obviously doing well and they've been settled, but you're going to ask a lot of Dobson now. You're going to ask a lot of O'Brien, a lot of Thomason, a lot of Kabore, you know, a lot of Windass, people like that aren't going to get rotated too much. And you got to remember as well, we've got a lot of miles on the clock already this season in late February now, going to Charlton. I know we don't have tons of midweek games, but you are going to have a Chelsea game. You're going to have Hull on a Tuesday night. You're going to have Watford now on a Tuesday night. It's kind of going to be a war of attrition, I think, towards the finish. And so, yeah, credit Portsmouth. I thought the lad Swanson, who scored, was very good. I was quite relieved to see him go off when they made some changes. And yeah, they're a good side, good away support, good side. And, you know, we'll look at that with a kind of sigh of relief. And Parky's, like I say, Parky's wild, raw celebration told me plenty that was a really, really tough game.
And again, I think in the running, kind of the bigger the opposition, the more I back Wrexham to be able to match them, really. Like I said, with that Ipswich game, you've seen what we've done against Coventry this season, Forest. I still think we'll give Chelsea a real good go in that cup game as well. You know, they're the games that are very easy to get up for. And then maybe it is some of those matches against the teams mid to lower table where there's a bit more of an expectancy to win, and that is what actually makes it harder. And what I want to ask you now then, Nath, is we've had the news since the last podcast. Ben Sheaf out for at least 10 weeks. Looks like his season completely over now with the injury he got against Ipswich Town. Matty James still sidelined as well. Defensive midfield continues to kind of be the issue, because I thought against Pompey on Tuesday night, you know, midfield functioned really well in the first half because it's quite end-to-end game. It was really open. But then when we were like sort of locked in that second half, having to defend deep and just try sit back and frustrate Pompey, we couldn't quite do it as effectively as we typically would. What do you think of midfield for the rest of the season? What do you think it is, just Dobson's place whenever he's fit now? Or do you think that we kind of, not say got away with one on Tuesday night, but do you think there might be a case now to say we need someone who's going to just kind of sit in front of the defence more than what we've got already?
I think Parky might pivot to a three-man midfield with one off Kiefer type. Depending on the game, obviously they're not going to completely abandon the two number 10s, but it wouldn't shock me if you see games where it's O'Brien, Dobson, Rathbone, and it's kind of strength in numbers, or you see Viner, O'Brien and Dobson. I think you're going to see a lot of Dobson and O'Brien. I think if fit, they will start pretty much every game. It's just whether you end up, because if you have someone like O'Brien there, who's done a lot better deeper, he's got that ability like Rathbone where you can kind of form a three-man midfield or can push on and play as a 10 if you're in the ascendancy, and then can drop back in if you need to. And then maybe you just have like a Windass off of Kiefer or a Broadhead off Smith or somebody. So it might be kind of two more deeper midfielders and then the oscillating 8/10 type player, which I think could be a formula that they look to, particularly in tough away games. You've got to go to Charlton's not an easy game, and Birmingham is a tough away game. Coventry will be a tough away game. Watford will be a tricky away game. So it's not kind of kamikaze ball home and away. You know, we've got the second best defensive record away from home. Only Stoke have conceded fewer goals away from home. So that isn't going to come from just going kamikaze with it. And if you think as well that, you know, we've conceded 17 goals away from home. Stoke have conceded 15. We conceded 2 against Bristol City, right? When it became a little bit kamikaze in the second half. So I wouldn't be shocked to see more of a three-man midfield more often now, because we said it in the summer, Rich. It was always a gamble that you only had 2 defensive midfielders, James and Sheaf. You didn't have another one. And I know Viner, who is a centre-back, can play there, but you don't have an orthodox defensive midfielder now. That's not what O'Brien is. That's not what Dobson is. And I've seen some suggestion online about, well, it's fine, the Sheaf injury is not a big deal because we've got loads of options there. I would totally disagree with that. I think you don't have a player now that can sit and screen and control the rhythm of a game. It's a lot more high tempo. It's a lot more box to box. And that will involve us now, I think, shifting the makeup of the midfield to be more strength in numbers rather than sort of man-on-man type battle.
Yeah, and again, like you said, I think we've got options, but they're just not the same option that Sheaf or James is. Like I said, particularly when I'm looking ahead to those games kind of against Watford and Birmingham, they're the games where you'd want Sheaf, maybe even Sheaf and James. You want them just to control the midfield, to sit there at the base, play those simple passes, break up play, and just keep things really simple, ticking over, give you that out ball. And when you're under pressure, they can play you out of danger. I feel like we're kind of a bit more erratic if we don't have them there. So that's the challenge. That's the task for other players. We always say, look, an injury is a setback, but it's another opportunity for someone else to step up and do that. And it felt like in the run-in last season, Dobson did that, where he added kind of passing to his game that we hadn't seen. And he wasn't the defensive midfielder, but he's almost like that link man in midfield that we thought he couldn't do. So I don't doubt that Dobson might be able to refine his game a little bit, drop a bit deeper, keep things simple, bite his tongue a little bit and say, all right, I don't need to chase every single pass. I don't need to press every single opponent. Sometimes I just need to sit back and wait for those attacks to come to me, really. So that's the challenge. And Nath, you mentioned there the sort of away record this season. Wrexham continues as well what they've been doing at home all season. That's the second highest scorers at home this campaign, the second worst home defence this campaign, joint second with Hull. Only Sheffield Wednesday have conceded more goals at home than Wrexham this season. The other interesting sort of stat that's been doing the rounds, and it's going to be 2 months today since Boxing Day, Wrexham are the form team in the Championship over the last 2 months. So while we look at the rest of the table and say, Norwich are doing well, Southampton look like they're on the rise as well, there's no team that have been better than Wrexham across the last 2 months.
Yeah, it's amazing. The best team in the top 2 divisions, top 4 divisions in 2026. Amazing achievement. You're hitting form at the right time, and I remember being at that journalism sort of awards dinner where Parky called out podcasters about 30 feet away from me. But in that speech, apart from that sort of thing we'll gloss over, he mentioned about how his team's always come on strong in the second half of the campaign, and they've got their feet under them, and it's just stacking wins on wins on wins. And yeah, it's you're looking at sort of since Boxing Day, it's very hard to pick holes in results. That there aren't many results where you go, "Ooh, that was a really bad one." It's a lot of that was a really good one, and that was really sort of top away from home or at home. And yeah, long may it continue, Rich.
Now, I was looking as well, Nath, in my my notes app earlier at the I think I can't remember which podcast it was on exactly, but when we spoke about it was on the so on the 28th of Jan, when I worked out the average points required for the playoffs for sixth place. So we said over the last 10 seasons, 73.5 points has been enough for sixth place in the Championship. So 74 points. And we worked out then that from the final 17 matches, we wanted Wrexham to get 30 more points, which would have been 10 wins. So if we are still saying that 74 is historically that magic number to attain in the Championship, Wrexham right now are on 54 points. So they would need 20 points from the remaining 12 matches. Of course, the caveat here is that in one season, 80 points was required to finish sixth. So, it isn't just this sort of, if we get to 74 points, it might not be enough, but we're saying it tends to be. 20 points from 12 matches sounds very doable, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just scaring me now because it does sound incredibly doable. And yeah, you're kind of dangling the playoff carrot, and I'm thinking like, surely, Wrexham couldn't even finish fifth, fourth. There's so many. It's not just sixth. I still think that the teams ahead of us will all be in there. I do think I've said it for some time. I think the 5 above us will all be in there, in the top 2 and the sort of 3 spots, or at least in the playoffs. So it does feel like there's maybe only one spot available. But why would anyone bet against Wrexham? You've got other podcasts out here admitting they were wrong, saying Phil Parkinson's the worst manager to ever grace the planet Earth, and you've got other people saying that I had Wrexham to be sort of like 18th, and they've shocked me. I mean, we can say we've been surprised, but both of us had us going for a top 10 finish, and so it's credit to everyone who's built this squad out, and for the players to kind of dig in and find all these mini partnerships for Doyle and the adversity some of these players have had, right? For Thomason not to be involved in preseason because of injury and then not really getting a game and then suddenly announce himself as a left wing back when he has that amazing game where he looks like a Ballon d'Or contender. Then you have Broadhead, who's much maligned at the start of the season, coming really strong of late. Windass has had peaks and troughs in the season and all the stuff off the pitch that's gone with that. Kiefer started like a train and then kind of fell out of form. And then the opposite for Sam Smith, really, really slow and then has this amazing run of form. Rathbone, injured in pre-season, talking about maybe packing football in and then suddenly looks like another player of the year contender. Matty James, amazing. Dobson, never played in the championship, amazing. O'Brien, so much criticism for O'Brien, and recently he's been absolutely sensational in a deeper role. Max, been so up and down. Arthur, similar, didn't start the season as number one, and I just think credit to everyone really that we're in this position. If you'd have said at the start of the season you need 20 points from the last 12 games, I think we all would have snapped the hand off that would have offered us that. So, yeah, very, very, very excited of how this is going to sort of shake out.
It's one of those as well, like you said, it's very difficult to stay level-headed in a Wrexham context because there is that carrot there that's dangling. You want the playoffs. You want to see us just achieve as much as we can this season with this player, this sort of playing squad and this manager and to do what we can with this coaching staff. But then you also want to say, well, whatever happens now is an incredible achievement that so few people saw happening. I know there'll be some of you who did predict it, but the majority of certainly external media thought there's not a chance. And Nath, I've made, this is a little treat for you. I will send it to you after the podcast. I've made a little graphic about the Wrexham circle of life, what happens every single season, how we're written off, told that we spent so much money, we're going to be the worst team people have ever seen. And then when we get promoted, people say, actually, it was an underachievement. You spent so much money. So I'll send that graphic to you. Maybe that'll make the socials if and when we actually do get promoted. What I wanted to ask you, Nath, is I mentioned it last week myself. How would you kind of view the promotion picture right now then? Because personally, I think the top three will consist of Cov, Borough and Ipswich. I think two of those get automatics, one of them misses out in the playoffs. And then for the playoff positions, the other playoff positions, I think there's 6 teams for the other 3 positions. I think it's Hull, Millwall, Wrexham, Southampton, Birmingham, and I still think by Derby. I'm just wondering who you reckon kind of, what do you make of the promotion picture right now? Any teams you think I'm overlooking? Any teams you think I'm being a bit too generous for? Or
No, I think Southampton are a real threat. Since Eckert, their manager, since he was appointed, I saw the graphic last night, they are first in wins, 11 wins. They are first in points, 38 points. They are first in goals. They are first in expected goals, and they are first in shots in target in the entire division. So they are the best in class since the new manager's come in. So a bad time to be a Will Still sort of fanboy, if you will. So Eckert has done an amazing job there. They absolutely trounced QPR. They are coming up hot on the heels. I think Birmingham, they're in that, we always say sometimes like the hunter versus the hunted. Well, I think those two hunters are very, very dangerous. Birmingham's squad is great. They got a very good win at Carrow Road. We'll see how they get on against Millwall. I don't know. I feel like Millwall are a little bit vulnerable, but again, defensively are very good. I think of the kind of of Hull, Millwall, and Wrexham, I still think 2 of those will get in the playoffs. I still think 2 of those 3 will get into the playoffs, and then there'll be 1 spot available. Whether it's Southampton, whether it's like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean we're 6th. It might be the Hull finish 6th. I just think one of those teams will drop out of Millwall, us, or Hull, and I think Southampton and Birmingham are right there, and they will be right there. So I don't think Derby will be in the mix personally. I don't think they'll quite have enough. I think they'll be sort of like 9th, 10th, and they'll have had a decent season really compared where they were last season. But those others you mentioned, I think really, really dangerous because they've got a lot of firepower. Southampton particularly and Birmingham, they've got a lot of goals in the team. And we do too, but Hull are another one. A lot of goals in the team, put 4 past Derby on Tuesday night. That's the difference maker when the games are close.
Well, Nath, Monday night was contract extension day for Wrexham. We saw Dobson and Rathbone both pen new deals. Initial reaction to them, I think we're both delighted to see them stay at Wrexham, but again, maybe not concerned, but surprised by how long those extensions are.
The first, I want to say, really pleased for both of them. Both really great lads. They just seem, and I've interviewed them a couple of times. They are really, really nice, and thrilled for them. They've got more security, new deal. They don't want to go anywhere. I don't think the fans want any of them to go anywhere. So, congrats to both of them first and foremost. But you have to say that our track record of, if as someone put it to me at the ground on Tuesday night, if we give you a new contract, that basically ensures you're going to end up at Burton Albion or Cheltenham Town in about a year's time. Our track record of giving out deals and then they go on to leave on loan within that year just seems, I think McLean got a new deal. George Evans got a new deal. I think he did. I think Andy Cannon ended up getting a new deal. Obviously McLean, the recent one. Bickerstaff ended up getting a new deal. Mendy got a new deal. We give out these new contracts. Palmer got a new contract, didn't he? And then just didn't really feature again. Did we need to give out a 2-year contract, do you think? Would they have signed a 1-year extension? Maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't have done. And we wanted to keep them at a time where we've got a load of midfield injuries. You want to reward players. But I think our track record of contract extensions makes these puzzling, especially if we go up and then suddenly, you've got players on long contracts. We've already got Lee and Mullen under contract till 2027. We've got a lot of players tied up on long deals and they're not sellable assets. So I definitely think there was a degree of confusion on my end about it.
Yeah, I think compared to some of the recent ones, I think there's certainly more sporting merit in keeping Dobson and Rathbone around right now because they're both playing really well at the top end of the Championship. So they've proven they can do that. But like you said, the elephant in the room is what if we do get promoted? Because I love them both. They've already stepped up and exceeded expectation this season. Like I didn't think they'd be playing this well in the Championship at the top end. But if you got to the Premier League, like you said, you'd be then potentially not stuck with them, but they'd be there with you for another 2 seasons. Certainly wouldn't expect either of them to be playing regular football if you ever did get to the Premier League. So yeah, it's an interesting one. The club, you have to say they've acted in the best interest of what they think is needed. And look, there still seems a lot more likely that we don't go up. So then maybe you do want Dobson and Rathbone around for another 2 seasons to try and get you up over the finish line as well. So yeah, it's one of those where it's not my money. We've got lots of money to spend. I was surprised by the length of the deals. But worst case, what we're saying the problem is disaster. We get promoted to the Premier League and we've got to loan Dobson and Rathbone out maybe in that second season or something. What a tough life that would be. So I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. But I personally prefer to have kind of 1-year extensions with the option to trigger an additional year, just because it then gives you that security if you want it. Obviously not ideal for the players, but it just makes sure the club is in kind of total control. What you don't want to see is, like you said, those situations where a player like Mullen or Lee, they have given their all for the football club. They've been amazing servants, but you don't kind of need them or rely on them as much as you did. And it doesn't make for an uncomfortable end, but they don't kind of get to have that clean exit. Do you know what I mean? If you sell them, they kind of just linger around on in the background while new heroes are formed. So it's a difficult one. But yeah, I understand why the club have done it. I just personally would have done that kind of 1 year plus an extra one if you want it.
Well, Rich, like you said as well, though, it's far more likely if you're a betting man that we are still in the Championship next season, and that's not to write off any promotion hopes. That's just a fact, really, isn't it? It's a strong possibility we are still in the Championship next season. And would you want George Dobson involved in another promotion bid? And would you want Ollie Rathbone? The answer would be yes and yes. So if that's the case, then suddenly, you go through next season. If you look at it from this point of view, right, I'd say, for whatever reason, we don't go up, we have them next year, we give it another go, and then they've only got 12 months left on their deal. That doesn't look too bad, does it? From that point of view. And again, I think Arthur would be a contract extension I'd be prioritising. We've already done Max's contract extension. We're at a time period now where people are going to want clarity on their futures. And, whereas lower down you can get away with shorter extensions, people higher up want to get 2-3 year deals, and they can go elsewhere and get those deals. You're not telling me that other championship clubs wouldn't want Dobson, wouldn't want Rathbone, and they wouldn't have a long list of suitors. I believe they would. So it's the club's point of view is, like you say, Rich. Our biggest issue is if we can guarantee ourselves 100 million quid and get to the Premier League, and what are we going to do with these two central midfielders that we put on 2-year deals for probably not exorbitant amounts of money. So I'm sure the club, if anyone is listening, are shaking their heads profusely at our idiocy over these contract extensions. But yeah, I would say that just from our track record, if you get a contract extension, it seems like they'll start unloading a locker at Burton Albion waiting for you. Okay, Charlton this weekend, a trip to the capital, a trip to the Valley, where when myself and Rich went last time, it was late, heartbreak, Parkinson fuming that, was it Seb Revan's professional foul ended up with a free kick and Charlton scrambled one in late on. Very, very unenjoyable end to that one. It felt like a defeat. It was a draw. But we're going down again this weekend, and she's been on the show before, but Tash, our resident Charlton expert, is here to give us the lowdown on Nathan Jones's Charlton. Charlton, Tash is back as she always is to tears up on Charlton. Firstly, Tash, how is the season going?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Do you know what? I feel like Charlton at the moment are blowing hot and cold. Like one game, I feel like great, we're going to stay up. I feel confident, and then the next, I'm thinking, oh God, and I'm feeling nervous again. I think that's just sort of been the story of our season, where 1 minute I'm thinking we're going to be fine, the next the world's ended. So, but I think at the moment I'm feeling positive. But I'm not taking for granted that we easily could get sucked into it. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Well, it feels a long time ago now since you had those like home games where you were shipping like 5. It seems like you're going to. We just mentioned before we came on about you went to Southampton, got a point there, and they've. Yeah. I mentioned on the pod they've been best in class in pretty much every category since Eckert took over. So, in the quote unquote big games, you seem to have been able to step up.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that we've been talking about a lot as a fan base, is that we seem to be able to turn up against the better sides, so the higher up the league. Like, we got that point at Southampton, as you said. But then when we play teams down the bottom, we've not been in those games. Like we lost 2-0 away at Norwich, which is when they were in the relegation zone. We obviously lost against Pompey twice. We got a 1-0 win against Oxford, which we probably would have expected. And again, we went to West Brom last night and we were lucky to get a draw. So it's completely bizarre. But then we managed to pull out other results. Like we beat Stoke. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, it's not going to take a lot for us to stay up. Like you put a bit of a run together, as you know, in this division, it can jump you like 5 places, and we could be in a place where you look like, why are we even worried? But equally, when those teams that you can't seem to beat for some reason are picking up points against you, it is worrying. But having said that, we're now facing teams that are in good form. You're in good form. We've obviously then got Birmingham the weekend after. We've got Middlesbrough away. I know they're on the rocks a tiny bit after draws with Oxford and Leicester, but these are going to be hard games. But it would be so Charlton to lose the games against Portsmouth and struggle at West Brom and allow them to score when they don't score goals, to then do okay against you guys. We're definitely not going to beat you all. I'm not saying that, but I would back us more to turn up in those games than the others, bizarrely.
Yeah, obviously Wrexham spent big money. Birmingham spent big money in both windows, and because they both felt like they could give it a good go for the playoffs. If we spoke after we got promoted and you got promoted out of League One and you were where you were now, do you think you'd be satisfied with that, given you went for a more modest spend and you're a solid championship club?
Absolutely. I think it's easy to, because we know that we probably have a higher ceiling than we've been demonstrating, and we've shown that at parts this season. It's easy to be like annoyed, like, you feel annoyed about last night, whatever. But as you said, if you scale it back and you go back to the beginning of the season, I have always said, as long as we stay in this division, that is all I care about. Like, honestly, it's not, this season was never a case of let's finish mid-table, whatever. Like, that would be lovely, don't get me wrong. And I don't think it's out of the question, but it would be pretty catastrophic for us if we got relegated, because that means we've then not had consecutive seasons in the Championship for like over 10 years at that point. So it's a struggle. Like, you're not going to be able to keep the players that you've got that are doing well. Like, you know how it goes when you get relegated. It's an uphill battle, especially getting out of League One, which we took 5 years to do last time. We definitely don't want to go down there again. So I'm absolutely happy with where we are. If we can finish there, that is an amazing finish for us. And I kind of look at Portsmouth, I look at Derby, I look at teams that, you know, where we were in League One, and have managed to stay up. Even Oxford, to some extent, if they managed to get out of this, like, they've stayed up, tried their best to recruit as well as they possibly could. You know, Portsmouth had to punch above their weight as well, probably like us. We will have to if we stay up. But if we can do that and then make the signings and fill in those gaps that we have in the squad right now, which are to be expected because, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. So we're doing the best of what we can. If we can do that, then that's a huge achievement in my eyes. And that's all we can ask for, really.
Obviously, Valley, we're going there at the weekend. Huge stadium. So in terms of the potential of Charlton, like you say, is huge. How has the mood been this season? Because obviously League One, you know, it's tough to fill that place at the best of times. Is it better this time around?
Do you know what? If I would be lying if I said that we had massive crowds every week, because we don't. I think when you've been in League One for a long time, to have those crowds back that we previously had, there are a lot of people that disillusioned for a very long time. There's also the element of a lot of games were on Sky, not to get the excuse book out, but the games were on Sky. The match tickets, in my opinion, are too expensive for what Charlton are offering as a product at the moment in the Championship. So there's loads of different factors. In general, the mood is much better. Like, the games are so much more exciting. I'm sure you guys feel exactly the same. Like, I go to a game and every game I think, all right, sometimes the standard isn't great, but when you compare it to League One, oh my God, like it's night and day. It's easy to forget how much better it is. The away followings are much better. Like 9 times out of 10, it's a sellout, or it's like close to that in the away end, which inevitably helps the atmosphere. And I'm sure, as you guys will remember, last time we had a pretty good crowd against you and had like Mark Goldbridge and all sorts rocking up. I don't think that's going to be the case this time. And I also hope we don't have half and half scarves again. But I do think it will be a bigger turnout than usual. I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear. I'm not sure how many, but yeah, I think it will be probably more of a bumper crowd than normal. But, you know, as I say, like, we're still in that phase of rebuilding as a club. So I'm not surprised we're not selling out every week. Like, we're going to have to bide our time with that one, and hopefully it will happen. But yeah, a much better mood. And just in terms of the team, like, I think, if we're being realistic, no one expects the team to be perfect this year. If we were, you know, out of our last couple of games, the results that we've got, if we were going to do better than that, we wouldn't be where we are in the table. Do you know what I mean? It's to be expected that we've had the results that we've had. So if we can keep clicking along with that, it all comes.
So before we get on to like recruitment and certain players, because obviously you added a couple in January, the last game you went to Wrexham. Very contentious. If I remember rewatching your TikTok at the time, we would say it was perfectly fine and legitimate, and like the penalty was the penalty. I'm sure Nathan Jones will be out for revenge, because it did seem like you guys did give us probably one of our closer games at home. You know, obviously we've lost some games at home, but in terms of the ones we've won, much like Portsmouth, I think we maybe rode our luck against Charlton.
No, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad it's not just us that thought that, because I mean, we didn't take our opportunities, you know. But every time we seem to play you, we seem to, you're our bogey team. It's really annoying, to be honest with you. But you know, that you can't, it was annoying because in my mind it should have been a 0-0. It wasn't, and you guys won the game fair and square, but it was one of those games where I thought, you know, Ono Hernandez makes that mistake. You can't legislate for that. Nathan Jones hasn't legislated for that. But every time we play you, there's always something that we seem to do to mess it up for ourselves. But I'm sure, I mean, I think it was that defeat actually that set off the run for us of being not very good. Like, we got beaten 5-1 by Southampton at home. We then lost to Stoke 3-0. It was that sort of domino effect. So thanks for that, taking the burst out of our bubble. But I'm sure Nathan Jones will be hoping that he can at least get something out of the game, because for us at the moment, it's just a case of just don't lose. Like, even if you're going to draw till the end of the season, just keep chipping away at those points. Regardless of whether it's against you or not, I think that's his aim, really, to be honest.
Lyndon Dykes, obviously a super smart addition as like a big man up top. How is the team looking? Did you make any other sort of notable signings in January?
Yeah, Dykes has been good. He obviously signed from Birmingham City. I was quite not surprised they let him go, because obviously he wasn't starting there. But I thought, this is the type of player that we need, because he can score goals. I know that sounds silly, but that's something that we've really struggled with, which you would have seen in the away game. Our goals have sort of been scattered about the team, which isn't a terrible thing, but it's been coming from our midfielder, Sonny Carey, rather than the strikers. He's our top goal scorer. But Dykes has been very good. I mean, if you watch the goal he scored against West Brom yesterday, he was going 1-on-1 with the keeper, basically. Like, and he's got so much time. And when you're watching it, you're thinking, oh God, he's got so much room to mess this up, but puts it through the keeper's legs and does it fine. So it's refreshing to have a striker like that, where you put them in those situations and you think, no, he is going to finish, because that's not been a guarantee for us over the last couple of months. So that's been a smart signing. We signed Harry Clark from Ipswich on loan. He's been playing at wing back and he's been really good. He didn't play against Southampton purely for a formation change, but he's been good. Really randomly, we've signed Jaden Fevrier from Stockport. I don't know if you remember him, but he wasn't even really playing for them. So it's a bit of a weird move, but we lost James Bree because he went back to his parent club, Southampton, in January. So we needed someone as well on the other flank. But he's been really good. Like, he's been a great addition. He scored against Portsmouth. We've not seen loads of him, but from when he comes on, he's offering a lot more, like giving us more of attacking threat, because that is something that we lack when we don't have Tyrese Campbell, our winger, on the pitch. And I say winger, he's been converted into a striker and then a wing back and then moved into various different positions. But without his pace, we look very one-dimensional. So it's good to have a few more people going down those channels. It's helped us. But yeah, there's lots that I think we can do in the summer window, and I'm sure you'll see that on Saturday, that there's areas that we don't do well in midfield, really, to be honest with you. That's where we came unstuck yesterday. So there's definitely things we could still do, but as I say, it's still a building process. But yeah, they're probably the main people that we signed in January that I thought were good additions.
Well, look, you didn't mention Connor Cody there, so that is a contentious issue. I thought I was waiting. I was like, maybe she'll bring Connor Cody. Connor Cody is on loan. Is not going to play in the game, so that we'll say that's why he wasn't brought up, because obviously he's an incredible footballer at this point in his career. No, Connor Cody signed for you guys. I'll be honest and say there was a lot of relief and shoulder shrugging from our side, because he wasn't really playing, wasn't getting on the bench. Makes his debut. You guys win away at Leicester. Obviously, Cody's old club. He seems to play defensive midfield, and everyone's raving about what a great game that is. How has it gone for Connor Cody so far?
Yeah, I think he enjoyed that Leicester game, needless to say. But no, well, I didn't know that he was being signed to play in that position. I assumed that he was going to be at centre back. But to be honest, I mean, as we touched on, like, I think if your concern with him is that he didn't have the pace. So, and if you leave him exposed, particularly at the time when we signed him, our backline was shaky at the best of times. So I don't think it would have been the right place for him to go. And actually, it's probably given him a little bit more freedom. Like, a lot of the time I'm seeing him much further up the pitch than I anticipated. Like, last night I was like, what are you doing all the way up there? But yeah, I think he would probably admit that he's not been as in games as he was against Leicester and the first games that he featured in. But no, he's been good. Like, the passes that he makes, I can tell that he's got that experienced head. And that's something that we need in a relegation battle. If we're gonna say that, if you're trying to stay in the league, like you need someone that, even if they're not going to offer the most when it comes to being on the pitch, at least they can be a guide in the dressing room, which I know for Wrexham and Leicester fans is such a cliche they have heard. Like, so many people have said to me, like, oh, Mr. Media Cody, like, yeah, he'll talk a good game and all this, that and the other. But look, if I don't care if he helps keep us in the division, he can do what he likes on Sky. That's fine by me.
Well, look, we got excited when we were like, this is such a good interview, and all the Leicester fans said, just you wait, podcast Cody will come back to haunt you. We were like, no, it's exactly what we need. We've got loads of young defenders. And then I saw Charlton Twitter go viral the other day for one angry fan saying that, why is he on Sky? We've just lost a game, and he should be on the training pitch or whatever. Something to that effect, with a few more expletives in there. Lastly then, Tash, how do you see this weekend going? Because obviously on our last trip to the Valley, it was like late heartache for us, late jubilation, the very last kick of the game. So do you expect Charlton to get anything out of it, or to even win? Beat us?
I mean, as I said, it's not going to take a lot. We don't need a lot now in order to stay up. So I don't think Nathan Jones is going to go into it thinking, let's just get a draw. Do you know what I mean? But with my realistic hat on and knowing our form against you in the past, I would say a draw. I think you score a lot of goals, but you also probably concede a few as well, it's fair to say. So I am going to go the same score as last time. I think 2-2.
So, Rich, Charlton this weekend, how are you feeling?
Well, the circus is back in town. I'm very, very excited about it, I think, Nath. Again, another one of these games where there's a bit of edge to these Charlton games, isn't there? That's what I like. I know we get animosity wherever we go in the Football League, but I think there's been a real healthy sort of sport and rivalry with Charlton established over the sort of last 18 months that I'm looking forward to rekindling. Of course, they'll forever be etched in our history now because of that promotion day from League One. They are synonymous with some of the greatest memories we'll ever have watching Wrexham, and Nathan Jones always makes it very entertaining. He'll be the subject of lots of abuse, I'm sure. If they manage to get a result, I'm sure he will remind us as well. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it as a spectacle. Again, it's one of those matches where, sort of Dobbo going back to his former club, it's a big game for him, I think, just because of the way that he's played the last two, and he's going to have to change this role a little bit. Like I said, he's still really good at what he does, but I just want to see a bit more sort of defensive protection from Dobbo this weekend. Of course, Connor Cody won't be involved for the home side after he joined them on loan, but I really don't know how to approach this one, Dave, because part of me says, well, you start Kiefer Moore and you're battering around them down and you try and just, break through that way. But Sam Smith looked so good on Tuesday night, so full of confidence. And it was the same with Bristol City, where I think we all wanted Sam Smith maybe to start, hindsight. And then when the game actually started, you thought, actually, Keith probably should have started this one just because of the way that Bristol were playing. So we've got options. What I'd like to see, and again, we say this all the time, is just be brave with our subs. Again, I thought on Tuesday night, that was one of a little bugbear I had, that it just felt like Pompey were really changing it and making lots of switches, and we were just kind of waiting and maybe not left them too late. Obviously, we went and won the game, but I also want to see us be proactive from the bench. And yeah, I'm not sure what I'd do with the lineup. We know that the back three and the goalkeeper's got to be unchanged. Wing back, I mean, fans saying they'd like Longman to start. It does feel like you maybe might have to freshen up at wing back just because of the amount of minutes that have been played lately. But I'm not sure which side I'd be replacing.
No, that feels that feels like I don't want to take George Thomason out, but we also need George Thomason for the remaining 11 or 12 games, whatever it is. So it is tricky in that sense. And obviously, nowadays you have all the data. They know if anyone's at risk of injury or, potential injury, and they know they've got a lot of minutes on the legs. I still think it probably will be Thomason. He's a very, very good athlete. And I do think it'll be Kabora. I think it'll be the same back five. I think it'll be O'Brien. I actually think they might go to this 3-5-1-1. I think they might play one off Kiefer. They will go with Kiefer. I think they might play Windass off Kiefer and took Rathbone in alongside O'Brien and Dobson. And then you've kind of got either O'Brien or Rathbone, probably Rathbone, who can sort of do that oscillating, sort of can form a second 10, but maybe then can sort of drop in and be a 3-man midfield and just try to stifle Charlton a bit, get them to come onto you. And then you've got the energy of Rathbone. You've got Kiefer, who can hold the ball up, bring people into play. And I always think with Charlton is maybe they want it to be quite physical, but sometimes you need to go brawn for brawn. You know, they're going to have somebody like Lyndon Dykes up there. You know, it will be a very tough game. You know, they are very physical. And that's where I just think Kiefer, you know, he wins so many fouls. He does get fouled a lot. That's how I sort of see it going. And was it Charlton this season when we kind of got a very sketchy penalty? Or they were claiming it was a sketchy penalty, and it was a very close game again, that one at the racecourse. So I don't expect anything less at the Valley. I think it'll be really nip and tuck. And again, like Tuesday night, I think you're going to need Kiefer's nous, and we're going to need a bit more in midfield so we don't get overrun. So I don't envy Parky because I don't know for once. I really feel conflicted about the lineup. Like I say, I really think we don't have the upper hand now in midfield, and that's why I would want to put an extra body in there to try and give us that extra man or give us something, just to give us a bit more of a foothold, really.
That's what I like about the Rathbone suggestion, really, is that you can line up with the 3-man midfield, and then if the game's not calling for it, you can revert back to the 2 off more as well. It's very simple to make that tweak in game if you prepared them for sort of both eventualities. And yeah, I think I agree with you. I agree. I would keep the wing backs the same, but I have just got a feeling that Longman might start on the left just because Thomason's played so much lately, and like you said, it's so important with this running coming up that we managed to keep him fresh. So there's a lot of games left, but like we said, Nath, what is it? 20 more points and we'll be in the playoffs. That's not a seal of approval. That's not certainty, by the way. I don't want to be held accountable if we miss out on the final day with this magic 74 points. I'm just saying that statistically, historically, that has been enough. And again, I think the other danger that we're speaking about, you know, the playoffs would be an incredible achievement, but you've still then got 3 more matches to win. So it's not as if you get to the playoffs and that's it. Then, you know, that would be incredible. And whatever happens now, it is almost certain Wrexham record their highest ever finish in the EFL, in the football pyramid. Like we said, Wrexham men's first team are going to have their best ever season. We're in the 5th round of the FA Cup. The women have won the Adran Trophy against Cardiff. The under-18s have given an incredible showing in the FA Youth Cup. And just enjoy it, guys. Just enjoy it. The circus keeps on entertaining, and there's going to be so many more twists and turns along the way, and we'll be there every step of the way. Nath will be there at Charlton. You're very excited for a big day out in the big smoke?
Yes. Going down night before, see some friends down in London, and very much looking forward to it. You've highlighted a pub that you're like eager to go to because I don't know why specifically this one pub. What is so special about this magic pub that you've discovered?
Lots of wood and lots of ale. Like, what more could you want, really? It just looks like a proper old man pub, and that's what I live for. So, not sure that we're doing John Smith sort of in Farringdon, but hey, I'm sure we'll be able to find some if we have to.
Rich, are we gonna win though? What's the prediction? What do we think?
I mean, the default for Wrexham just seems to be draws still, even though we've probably not drawn that many games lately. Of course, we had that trip to Bristol last week where we did get a 2-2. I think it's going to be tight. I really think there's going to be 1 goal in it. I've just got a horrible feeling that at full time I'm going to see Nathan Jones sort of doing the Mourinho down the touchline towards the away end. I don't know why. I'm going 1-1. I'm going 1-1.
I will then go the alternative. Steve Parkin running down the touchline, Mourinho style, towards the away fans as Davis Keeler-Dunn comes off the bench with like 60 seconds to play and somehow scores. And it's just absolute carnage in the away end. And somehow we end up back in this very wooden and very ale-filled pub toasting a very precious win. So that's what I'm going to manifest. And very quickly, I just wanted to say, because we didn't talk a lot about the under-18s, really, really disappointed that the under-18s game clashed with the first team game. And I know that was a view shared by a lot of people. Under-18s, you know, they made history, the furthest they'd ever gone. The women made history winning winning the trophy for the first time. you want people to have as many opportunities to watch these. I know they went out their way to get tickets and travel to the women's game, and there was groundswell of support. Parky went, Humphrey went, loads of fans went. Great. So you didn't see many Cardiff fans up in Bangor for that one. But yeah, just want to say shout out to the 18. Should be really, really proud of that effort. And I know maybe didn't get the amount of eyeballs it should have done, but it's always next year. Well done, lads. Really, really proud of you.
And you said on that as well, it's a disgrace that I think the Cardiff Wrexham women's game is on Saturday at 3 p.m. Like that should be, everyone should be there, and that should have an incredible, attendance, and it should be the eyes of the world watching that. For it to be 3 p.m. on a Saturday, ironically, I mean, everyone wants to watch matches at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, but that just seems like such a missed opportunity there. Because if you move that to the Sunday and you can have everyone watching it, have it on the Friday night, have it on the Monday night or something, just make it more of that spectacle. Even if you had it as the late game on the Saturday or something, just get more eyeballs on it. It is just such a shame that a week after that incredible cup final, you're now watching first versus second in the league, and it's being played Saturday 3 p.m. So, lots of people won't be able to watch it, and you won't be able to maybe keep track of it and give it the attention that it deserves. So again, I know that these aren't Wrexham scheduling. That's 2 away games. The Youth Cup is at Hales Owen, and so is this game at Cardiff on Saturday. But just a real shame that, people have to pick and choose between one or the other when you want to give every, and, we want to, as much as we can, give every asset of the club as much attention as can get. But it's very difficult to do so, isn't it, sometimes? And, particularly this weekend, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for those Wrexham fans. But we will be back on Sunday probably, or certainly early next week, to look back at whatever happened against Charlton, and then to look ahead at the weeks ahead. It's going to be a very busy few weeks. Like we said, we'll be with you every step of the way. After Charlton, Nath, simple matter of the FA Cup. Thank you very much for joining us on Rob, Ryan, Red. Thank you to Red 10 People Development for their continued support of the podcast, and to Wrexham-based band Hypnotic for the music, the stings that we hear in the show. Take care, and we will see you again next time.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Faye.